My sister texted, "You're not invited to the wedding. Goodbye, loser." My mom added a heart emoji right after. I replied, "Perfect. Then I'll remove my payments from the account." They kept joking in the group chat like it was nothing, but by the next morning, everything had changed. I once believed my family was my anchor, my absolute rock. That illusion didn't just crack. It shattered the day my own sister, Eliza, sent a text that read, and I quote, "You're not invited to the wedding. Goodbye, loser." But the real gut punch. My mom, Catherine, chimed in right after with a heart emoji. A heart emoji. For goodbye, loser. For years, I'd been their quiet ATM, the one who always showed up, financially and emotionally. So what did I do? My hands shaking with a mix of fury and disbelief, I typed out a single, ice-cold response. Perfect. Then I'll remove my payments from the account. They actually laughed, right there in the family group chat, mocking what they clearly thought was an empty threat. But the next morning, their amusement turned to absolute, screaming panic. You know, back in our old brick townhouse in Dorchester, Boston, things were simple. We weren't rich, not by a long shot, but we had something money couldn't buy: each other. I can still smell my mom's Sunday pot roast, hear my dad's booming laugh during Patriots games. And Eliza, my little sister, 2 years younger, with those bright hazel eyes that just crinkled when she laughed. Making her laugh? That was my superpower. We weren't just siblings, we were like two halves of a whole, navigating childhood, always hand in hand. Then, the earthquake hit. I was 12, Eliza 10. Our parents' marriage just crumbled. It wasn't just a divorce, it ripped our world apart. Dad moved states away, and suddenly Mom was trying to be everything to everyone, working double shifts just to keep us afloat. But the real game changer? When I was 15, Mom met Richard. This guy was all tailored suits and luxury cars. Everything our family had never been. Their romance was a whirlwind, ending in a wedding that cost more than we used to make in a year. Overnight, we left our modest townhouse for Richard's sprawling colonial in Brooklyn, heated pool and all. And that's when everything changed. Mom and Eliza dove headfirst into this new, shiny world: designer clothes, country club memberships. Me? I just retreated to my computer, finding comfort in the logical, predictable world of code. It felt like I was watching them disappear into a life that wasn't mine. Even with our lives diverging, Eliza and I, we held on to each other. Those early teenage years, our bond was fierce. I taught her to ride her bike, watched her determined little face wobble down the street, when some snotty kid at her new, fancy school made fun of her Boston accent. I spent hours with her, practicing pronunciations, telling her voice was perfect just the way it was. We even had our own secret language, made-up words, hand signals. Zambon meant we needed to talk, really talk. Flippergibbet was code for feeling sad but not wanting to show it. A quick tug on an earlobe? That meant, I've got your back. Always. It was us against the world, you know? Before Richard, when Mom worked late, I was the one making dinner, helping with homework. If she had a nightmare, she ran to my room. Not Mom's. These weren't chores. They were the invisible threads that wove us together, making our bond unbreakable. Or so I thought. College applications, man. That's when the gap between us really started to widen. I was laser-focused on computer science, on scholarships, knowing I needed to earn my way. Meanwhile, Eliza was dreaming of these exclusive, fancy private colleges. My practical choices? They just got raised eyebrows at family dinner. Even with a partial scholarship to MIT, I was working almost full-time just to cover tuition and rent. Yet, when Eliza got into an expensive liberal arts college in Vermont, what did I do? I automatically set up a monthly transfer for her books, for her spending money, $300, from my campus IT job, from working weekends at a tech repair shop. That wasn't some casual donation. That was hours of my life, every single month. Our first real fight about money, her sophomore year. She called, demanding an emergency. $1,000 for a spring break trip to Cancun with her sorority sisters. I tried to explain, Eliza, I just can't afford that right now. I'm paying my own way. Her response? It floored me. She actually said, but you're so good with computers. Can't you just make money appear? Richard says tech people are rolling in cash. This trip is important for my social standing. Can you believe that? That's when it hit me. Our worlds, they were completely, utterly disconnected. Still, desperate to cling to what we had, I opened a joint family account. My money went in each month for emergencies, for gifts, for family expenses. Mom, Richard, Eliza, all on it. A gesture of trust, a desperate hope that this shared financial tether would keep us connected, even as our values drifted miles apart. I graduated MIT with honors, jumped into a hot tech startup. Small salary, big dreams of equity. I lived in a cramped studio, pouring everything into it. Then, bam, 8 months in, our investor bailed. Company gone. Just like that, I was unemployed, rent due, student loans calling. Mom offered for me to move back, but Richard made it crystal clear it'd be on his terms, and I'd better contribute appropriately. I was 23. Instead of taking their conditional help, I went into beast mode. 3 contract jobs simultaneously. Day coding, night coding, weekend IT. Support. 4 hours of sleep a night. Those months, they forged me. They taught me self-reliance in a way no classroom ever could. Then, my big break. A bug-fixing contract led to a senior developer recognizing something in me. Suddenly, I was at an established tech company, competitive salary, full benefits. 18 months later, I was a senior developer, fast-tracked. My career was soaring, but my lifestyle? Unchanged. Same beat-up Honda, a comfortable but unassuming apartment. My focus was on real wealth, building savings, investing, and, yes, still helping my family. Values that I was beginning to realize clashed deeply with their obsession with status and appearances. My financial support for them, it just kept growing. Mom developed chronic migraines. I set up automatic payments for her medical care. Eliza graduated college buried in student loans. Despite Richard's contributions, apparently, her exclusive education demanded every conceivable extracurricular expense. I quietly took on half her debt payments. Then there were the family vacations, elaborate international trips Mom, Richard, and Eliza planned each year. Mediterranean cruises, African safaris. And guess who was expected to cover a third of the cost? Me. Funny thing was, an actual invitation to join them? Those rarely materialized. Or if they did, my work schedule mysteriously conflicted, or the activities revolved entirely around Richard's business contacts. Every single month, a huge chunk of my hard-earned money flowed automatically into that shared family fund. It was like a financial umbilical cord, and for some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to cut it. Even as it became painfully clear, my only real role in this family was to be the financial provider. As Eliza's life soared, thanks to Richard's connections, she landed a job at a prestigious marketing firm. Her Instagram became a perfectly curated gallery of rooftop cocktail parties, Martha's Vineyard weekends, charity galas, a world I barely recognized. My face, once a feature in her social media, first dwindled, then vanished entirely. The gulf between us was becoming a chasm. Then came Harrison Whitfield, Eliza's new boyfriend, and with him, the stark, brutal contrast between our worlds. He was old Boston money, deep New England roots, oozing this effortless confidence of someone who'd never known a moment's doubt. His dinner conversation? Sailing. Competitions, his family's Cape Cod compound, exclusive clubs. And what exactly do you do with computers all day, Basil? He asked me once, his tone implying I'd just confessed to collecting stamps. Before I could even open my mouth to talk about leading cybersecurity protocols for major financial institutions, Eliza cut me off. Oh, Basil fixes things when they break. Like IT. Support, but for, harder problems. She practically winked. How fulfilling. Harrison mumbled, clearly struggling to fake interest. My cousin tried coding once during a summer program, but he found it tedious. He's in venture capital now, much more suitable for someone with his background. These family dinners became exercises in pure self-restraint. Every word I said felt like walking on eggshells. I'd get subtle digs about my career, my clothes, anything. Mom and Richard would just exchange glances when I mentioned a promotion. Their congratulations felt hollow, forced, especially compared to the gushing praise Eliza got for the tiniest workplace accomplishment. The warning signs, the growing resentment, they became impossible to ignore. One Sunday I arrived early for dinner. Richard was in his study, chatting with his country club friends. Catherine's son, I heard him say, he does something with computers. Successful enough, I suppose, but completely lacking the social graces for proper Boston circles. Honestly, a bit of an embarrassment at events. And my mom, we're working on Basil, she said. He's always been the difficult one, so resistant to guidance. Thank goodness Eliza understands the importance of connections. It was like a punch to the gut. Yet I still tried. I kept trying to hold on to them. Christmas came. I spent weeks programming a digital photo frame for Mom, thinking she'd love it. Automatically updated with new family pictures. Later, I found it shoved into a guest room closet, not fitting the living room's aesthetic, apparently. Thanksgiving, though, that was the real turning point. I arrived at the house to find this elaborate dinner setup for 20, all Richard's business associates. And my name card? It was at a folding table in the sunroom with the kids under 12. With the children. That was it. That was the unmistakable statement about my place in their hierarchy. When I quietly asked Mom, her response was chilling. Basil, Harrison's family is here. They're very particular about dinner. Conversation. We thought you'd be more comfortable away from all the business and social discussions. The message couldn't have been clearer. I was an embarrassment. A problem. To be managed, marginalized, and kept out of sight. I was valued for my money, not my presence, not my personality, not my history. That night, driving back to my lonely apartment, it just hit me. The big brother, Eliza's hero, her protector? I was just an inconvenient relative now. An ATM. With a pulse. The engagement? I found out through a mass email. Not a call, not a text directly to me. Hey, mass email. I called Eliza right away to congratulate her, but it went straight to voicemail. My text. A brief, thanks, so excited 3 days later. Then the engagement party invitations. Started going out, almost 200 of them. Mine, conspicuously absent. I waited a week. Finally, I called Mom. Oh, Basil, she chirped, that artificial, saccharine sweetness in her voice. Sure your invitation just got lost in the mail. Of course you're invited. It's at the Whitfield estate in Manchester by the sea this Saturday. Black tie, of course. And Basil, she added, please wear that navy suit we got you for Christmas, not your usual choices. The party itself? Pure social exclusion. Waiters with champagne, Boston's elite mingling, and me, standing awkwardly alone, not knowing a soul. When I finally found Eliza, surrounded by her sorority sisters, her greeting was quick, distracted. Basil, you made it. Have you meet? Actually, everyone's busy right now. Maybe catch up later. And she was gone, swallowed by a crowd she clearly deemed more important. Even Harrison's parents, the Whitfields, with their old Boston money poise, were dismissive. The programmer brother? Theodore nodded, his handshake brief. Harrison mentioned you work with computers. My personal assistant handles our family's IT needs, quite good with the email problems and such. Ouch. Despite all that, I tried. I actually tried to connect with Harrison, thinking it was important for Eliza. I found him alone by the bar, and we talked about sailing. I even mentioned I was learning on the Charles. For 20 minutes, we had what felt like a real conversation. It was the longest I'd talked to anyone all night. It left me with this tiny, fragile spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find a common ground with my future brother-in-law. That little spark? It made the next phase of exclusion even more confusing. Eliza had initially talked about an intimate family ceremony, maybe 60 people max, something meaningful. I'd even offered financial help. I'd like to contribute. Maybe the photographer, or the flowers. She seemed genuinely touched. That's sweet, Basil. Let me talk to Harrison. Within weeks, intimate became extravagant. The Whitfields got involved, and the guest list exploded from 60 to 300. The historic Boston church ditched for the exclusive Whitfield country club. My offers of help went unanswered. Planning meetings? Happening without me even knowing. When I asked Mom about details, her responses grew vague. Oh, it's all coming together. Beautifully. Margaret has just taken Eliza under her wing. As Eliza morphed into what her bridesmaids jokingly called Bridezilla, the financial expectations from my family ratcheted up. Richard casually mentioned at dinner that the Mercer family, meaning me, really, would be covering the rehearsal dinner, which had, of course, expanded into a formal affair for 75 people at one of Boston's most expensive restaurants. We're all contributing appropriately to make this special, Mom added, giving me a pointed look. Family image is so important at events like this. I reminded them, I've already offered to help. Eliza just hasn't told me where. Richard just waved me off. Perhaps something will come up. Though Harrison's family is handling most of the significant elements, they have certain standards, you understand. It was sickening. The whole wedding planning process became entirely about designer dresses, premium alcohol, celebrity florists, and which guests were important connections. Never once did I hear them talk about Eliza and Harrison's future, their shared values, or the actual meaning of commitment. It was all just show. Then, the ultimate slap in the face. A week before that gut punch text, I noticed substantial withdrawals from our shared family account, the one I funded for wedding expenses. Payments for luxury transport, custom favors, deposits for bridesmaids' hotel rooms. They were using my money, without even a word, while actively pushing me out. That night, I called Derek, my best friend from college. After I laid it all out, he just said, "Bro, this is completely messed up. They're using you like an ATM." I tried to defend them, but they're still my family. He cut me off. Family doesn't treat family like an ATM. When was the last time any of them asked about your life? Your work? Hell, do they even know what you actually do for a living? His words hit hard. When was the last time? I decided to confront it. I texted Eliza, asking to meet for coffee. She was enthusiastic at first, then canceled the day before. Emergency cake tasting with Harrison's mom. Reschedule. Soon. No offer to reschedule. My follow-up text, specifically asking about those unexplained wedding expenses from the joint account. Radio silence. 3 days later, the message that changed everything landed. A notification in the family group chat. Mom, Richard, Eliza, and me. I opened it. It was Eliza. Basil, after careful consideration with Harrison and his family, we've decided you won't be receiving an invitation to the wedding. Your awkwardness at social events, inappropriate conversation topics, and general inability to fit in with our circles would create uncomfortable situations for important guests. This is a crucial networking event for Harrison's career and my future social standing. Goodbye, loser. Goodbye, loser. The shock was so immense, it was almost physical. But what came next? That's what truly broke me. My mom, Catherine, immediately replied to Eliza's message with a heart emoji. Richard added, completely understandable decision, princess. Your day should be perfect without complications, followed by laughing emojis. From both of them, they weren't just excluding me. They were reveling in it. I just stared at my phone. That family chat, once a place of shared jokes and plans, had transformed into a firing squad. My hands were physically shaking. Years of financial support, emotional availability, of practically raising Eliza through our parents' divorce, all of it, just thrown away, because I might be an embarrassment in front of important people. My first impulse wasn't a scream or cry. It was cold, methodical. I pulled up my bank statements. 10 years. Contribution after contribution. I started cataloging everything. The total? Nearly $200,000 in direct payments, not counting countless gifts, emergency expenses, Mom's medical bills, Eliza's student loans. Then I called Angela, another close college friend. After I laid it all out, she was furious. Basil, this is beyond toxic. This isn't just excluding you from a wedding. This is them telling you exactly how they see you, as someone they're ashamed of, whose only value is financial. You know what you need to do. I reasoned. If I respond emotionally, they'll just use it against me. Say I'm unstable. Angela's advice was blunt. Then don't give them ammunition. Hit them where it actually matters to them. So, after considering everything, I typed out that single line. Perfect. Then I'll remove my payments from the account. Best wishes on your special day. Their reactions were immediate and telling. Eliza, first, LOL. Whatever, Basil. You're tiny. Contributions are hardly essential. Harrison's family is covering everything important anyway. Mom chimed in. Don't be childish, Basil. Family has responsibilities, regardless of personal feelings. Richard, of course, classic tantrum when you don't get your way. This is exactly why Eliza made the right decision. I didn't respond. I just closed the group chat and opened my laptop. For the next 3 hours, I systematically, painstakingly dismantled every single piece of that financial support structure. I canceled automatic transfers. I contacted my bank to remove myself from joint accounts after transferring out my share. I suspended payments on Eliza's student loans, on Mom's medical expense account, and then I scheduled a series of automated emails to hit their inboxes. At 7 a.m. the next morning, each one, a detailed record of my past contributions, followed by a clear notification, support terminated. I wanted them to see it before they even had their first coffee. That night was a strange journey. I went through old photos, mementos. There was a crayon drawing Eliza made when she was 8, best brother ever, scrawled above stick figures holding hands. My MIT acceptance letter, shown to Mom with such pride, met with a distracted "That's nice, dear," as she focused on Eliza's prom dress fitting. Around midnight, my phone rang. It was Uncle Frank, my mom's brother, the only family member, who had always shown genuine interest in me. He built his construction business from nothing. He knew the meaning of hard work. Just heard about the wedding situation from your mother, he said. No preamble. She's trying to spin it, but I read between the lines. You doing okay, kid? For the first time, I let the dam break. Not really, Uncle Frank. I think I've been fooling myself about my place in this family for years. He was blunt. You've been buying their affection, Basil, and that never works. Catherine changed when she married Richard. Eliza followed her lead. But you stayed true to yourself, and that makes them uncomfortable. Reminds them of choices they've made. I'm cutting them off financially, I admitted, my voice small. Is that too harsh? Uncle Frank let out a humorless laugh. Harsh. Harsh would be publishing those texts for all their fancy friends to see. Financial independence is just healthy boundaries, son. Long overdue if you ask me. His words solidified something deep inside me. This wasn't about revenge. This was about self-respect. It was about finally acknowledging the painfully one-sided nature of our relationship. As I finally drifted off to sleep around 3 a.m., there was this strange, profound mix of grief and liberation. I mourned the family I wanted to have, while finally freeing myself from the family that actually existed. At 7:15 that next morning, I was with Janet, my financial advisor. I brought her every document, every record of my family's financial entanglements. Her professional demeanor actually faltered as she looked through it all. Basil, she said, I've advised you for 3 years, and you've never once mentioned these substantial ongoing family obligations. This represents nearly 30% of your annual income. I mumbled something about normal family support, but even to my own ears, it sounded hollow. Basil, she replied, gently but firmly, there's supporting family, and then there's being taken advantage of. These are completely different situations. For 2 hours, we meticulously crafted a separation plan. Every account, every payment. For ongoing expenses like Mom's medical bills and Eliza's loans, we calculated my fair portion, not what they'd subtly shifted onto me. Janet even helped draft formal, neutral letters. No emotion, just facts. My phone had started buzzing around 7:30, but I let it ring. By 9 a.m., 23 missed calls, 15 voicemails, 42 texts. Mom's voicemails started confused, then escalated to anger, then full-blown panic. Basil, explain these ridiculous emails. This childish behavior is unacceptable. Call me now. Please, Basil. We need to discuss this immediately. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Eliza's texts followed the same trajectory. Very funny with the account thing. Joke's over. To you can't actually be serious about this. Call me. To Basil. Please. I'm sorry about what I said. This isn't fair. Richard's messages? Predictably, they went straight to threats. Unprofessional behavior. Reconsider immediately. You have responsibilities to this family, regardless of personal feelings. Then, the kicker. If you don't restore these accounts immediately, there will be serious consequences for your relationship with this family. Final warning. I stayed silent. This wasn't a negotiation. This wasn't an emotional outburst they could dismiss. This was the establishment of new, long overdue boundaries. By 11 a.m., the consequences were already cascading. My email pinged with a forwarded message. From Eliza, the wedding venue was threatening to cancel due to a missed payment deadline. The non-refundable deposit was apparently very refundable when the next payment didn't arrive. Mom texted a screenshot. Her credit card company had declined a final payment for Eliza's wedding. Dress alterations, she'd maxed it out without my regular infusions of cash. And then, the biggest domino fell. Harrison's father, Theodore Whitfield, was asking uncomfortable questions about the sudden financial disarray. A panicked voicemail from Eliza confirmed it. He's questioning everything, Basil. Our financial responsibility, our transparency. By early afternoon, my extended family started calling me because Mom was frantically calling them for emergency loans. My cousin Taylor texted, "What's happening with Aunt Catherine? She just asked Dad for $15,000 for a wedding emergency, but won't explain." I kept my digital silence, focusing on work, watching the chaos unfold. At 6:30 that evening, the inevitable arrived. Mom, Richard, and Eliza, unannounced at my apartment door. Their faces were a mix of anger, desperation, and utter disbelief. "We need to talk," Richard bellowed, trying to push past me. I blocked him. "Yes, we do," I said, my voice steady. "But not like this. If you want a conversation, we can meet tomorrow in a neutral location with a clear agenda. Tonight is not happening. You've destroyed everything." Eliza wailed, her makeup streaked with tears. "The Whitfields are questioning the entire wedding now because of your petty revenge." "This isn't revenge," I corrected, my voice calm, almost clinical. "This is me stopping voluntary financial support after being explicitly told I'm not considered family, except for my contributions." "It was just a joke that went too far," Mom insisted, trying that old cajoling tone she used. "When I was a kid, you know how stressed Eliza gets." She didn't mean any of it. I just looked at her. "The heart emoji you added suggested you found it pretty amusing, Mom." As did Richard's supportive response. "But we can discuss all this tomorrow, after everyone has calmed down." "There's nothing to discuss," Richard blustered, his face red. "You have responsibilities too. This family, your mother and sister need your support." "No," I said, holding his gaze. "What they need is my money. Those are entirely different things. And after years of being treated as an embarrassing ATM, that arrangement is permanently terminated." As they continued to protest, I opened my door just enough to slip out and shut it again, leaving them on the other side. My final words before I closed it: "Uncle Frank's house, 2 p.m. tomorrow. I'll bring complete financial records. You bring honest explanations, or don't come." And this becomes our new normal. Their angry protests continued from the hallway for almost 20 minutes before they finally left. That night, I slept more peacefully than I had in years. The crushing weight of unspoken resentment, of one-sided obligation, was finally lifted. The next day, exactly at 2 p.m., we gathered at Uncle Frank's modest home in Jamaica Plain. He'd even arranged for his longtime friend, Patricia, a family therapist, to mediate. The living room was set up with this almost formal air, chairs positioned so no one felt cornered. Mom, Richard, Eliza arrived on time. Their faces? Guarded. Richard, usually so imposing, seemed deflated. Mom had clearly put effort into her appearance, maybe hoping it would influence the outcome. But Eliza? She just looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming," Patricia began, after introductions. "Basil has asked for this mediated conversation to address long-standing family dynamics that have reached a breaking point." She laid out the ground rules: uninterrupted speaking time, focus on behavior, not judgment, openness to other perspectives. Reluctant nods all around. I opened my laptop, connected it to Frank's TV. "I want to start with facts," I said, my voice steady, not emotions. "The first slide, the complete 8-year history of my financial contributions. Green for regular transfers, blue for emergencies, red for wedding expenses. The cumulative total at the bottom? It was staggering. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Richard shifted. Uncomfortably. Eliza just stared at the floor. Then came the next slides, dozens of texts and emails, documenting years of dismissive responses to my genuine attempts at connection, contrasted with immediate engagement when money was needed. Finally, I put up that text. The goodbye, loser text, and the heart emoji, and Richard's laughing emojis. This, I said, is what prompted my decision. Not just the exclusion, but the evident enjoyment you all took in delivering that message. Richard tried to interrupt, but Patricia's gentle reminder of the rules stopped him cold. When my presentation ended, the silence in the room was deafening. Eliza, would you like to respond first? Patricia prompted. My sister looked up, all her usual confidence gone. I don't even know what to say, seeing it all laid out like this. Her voice cracked. The wedding text, it was horrible. I can't believe I wrote those things to you. Why did you? I asked simply. What followed was a breakdown I never saw coming. Eliza just dissolved. Between sobs, she confessed to a tangled web of insecurities, of crushing external pressures. Harrison's family. They've been suffocating me with expectations. Basil, especially his mother. She scrutinizes everything. My friends, my family, my background. She made comments about you being new money, tech, and how that might reflect poorly on their family reputation. So, you threw me under the bus to impress your future in-laws. I clarified. It's more complicated than that, she choked out. I've been so jealous of you, Basil. For years. You've always been so secure, so solid. You never needed their approval. You just built your own life. And I've been desperately trying to fit into this world that never quite accepts me. The text, it was awful. But it wasn't really about you. It was me trying to prove my loyalty to their social hierarchy. Her confession shifted something profound in the room. For the first time in years, I saw glimpses of the little sister I protected, not the status-obsessed stranger she'd become. I've been terrible to you, she concluded, looking straight at me. After everything you did for me, I don't expect forgiveness, but I am truly sorry, and I want a chance to rebuild whatever might be left between us. Mom's response was a much harder climb. She started defensive, trying to minimize the text. The years of distance. Just wedding stress talking, she'd say. We've all been busy. It took Uncle Frank stepping in, using her childhood nickname. Katie, he said, his voice soft but firm. Remember when we were kids? Dad always said I was the athletic one. You were the smart one. Remember how that boxing in hurt both of us for years? You're doing the same thing to your son, except you've decided his only value is financial support. That's not true, she protested weakly. Isn't it? Frank pressed. When was the last time you asked about his work? Not what he earns, but what actually matters to him about it. When did you introduce him with pride instead of apology? When did you defend him instead of joining in when Richard or Eliza made him the family punchline? Mom's carefully constructed facade finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face. I don't know when it changed, she whispered. After the divorce, Basil was so capable, so self-sufficient. Eliza, she seemed to need me more. Or I thought she did. Then Richard came along, and suddenly we had access to this world I'd always felt excluded from. I got caught up in it all. She turned to me. Somewhere along the way, I started taking your strength for granted. I assumed you didn't need the attention, the validation, because you seemed fine without it. That wasn't fair. No matter how independent you are, you deserved a mother who championed you. The heart emoji, I asked quietly, my throat tight. It was inexcusable, she acknowledged. I was trying to support Eliza, but I should have immediately called out that text as completely unacceptable. I failed you fundamentally as a mother in that moment. Richard's contribution was predictably self-serving, focusing on family image and financial arrangements. But Patricia, the therapist, was a master. She skillfully redirected him over and over until he, too, offered the closest thing to an apology his pride would allow. An acknowledgement that his treatment of me had been perhaps unnecessarily dismissive. As the 4-hour session wound down, I outlined my terms for moving forward. I'm willing to rebuild relationships, I said. with those genuinely interested in mutual respect and authentic connection. But certain things are non-negotiable. First, complete financial independence for all parties. I'll honor specific commitments, like the portion of mom's medical expenses we agreed I'd cover, but no more unlimited access to my accounts. Second, respect is mandatory. No more dismissive comments, no more social exclusion. Third, I expect genuine interest in my life, not just my financial contribution to yours. Looking directly at Eliza, I added, regarding the wedding, I'll attend if invited sincerely, not out of financial panic, but as a brother who values our history and potential future relationship, not as a wallet to solve your budget crisis. Mom reached across the coffee table, taking my hand, the first genuine physical contact in months. I want my son back in my life. Basil, whatever that takes. Eliza nodded, tears still in her eyes. Me too. And not because of money. Because you're my brother, and I miss who we used to be. Richard, his smile tight, offered a pragmatic nod of agreement. As they prepared to leave, Eliza lingered. Harrison actually asked about you yesterday, she said quietly. He said our sailing conversation at the engagement party was the only authentic interaction he had all night. He wanted to know if you might be willing to go sailing with him sometime. Her smile was tentative, but genuine. I think he's relieved to finally have one family member who isn't obsessed with status. That unexpected revelation, it offered the first fragile seed of hope, not just for my own family, but for the new connections forming through Eliza's marriage. The wedding that actually happened? It was nothing like the status-driven spectacle planned. The guest list shrank from 300 to a focused 80, prioritizing real relationships. The venue shifted from the Whitfield's Country Club to the elegant, historic Boston Public Library courtyard, a place meaningful to Eliza and Harrison's shared love of literature. My role transformed from excluded embarrassment to honored family member. 3 weeks after our family meeting, Eliza and Harrison came to my apartment, handwritten, note in hand. They asked if I would give a reading during the ceremony. Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, a poem that held special meaning in our childhood. We want the wedding to reflect what actually matters, Eliza explained, a new authenticity in her voice. Not what impresses people who barely know us. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I saw a subtle but powerful shift in Harrison's family too. Eliza, freed from the pressure of the Whitfields' exacting standards, started standing up for herself. And surprisingly, that backbone earned her more respect from Harrison's parents than her previous attempts to conform ever had. Harrison himself turned out to be far more complex than my initial impression. During our sailing trips on the Charles River, he confessed his own deep discomfort with his family's social expectations. I just went along with their networking obsession because it seemed easier than fighting it, he admitted, as we navigated a buoy. Watching Eliza stand up to them recently made me realize I've been letting them dictate too much of my life, too, including how I judged you when we first met. On the morning of the wedding, I found Eliza alone in the bride's room at the library. She was calm, adjusting her simple, elegant dress. Remember when we were kids, Basil and I made you play wedding with my stuffed animals? She asked, smiling at the memory. You always insisted on changing the traditional vows to include promises about always having ice cream in the freezer and never making the other person eat Brussels sprouts. Critical foundations of any successful marriage, I replied, returning her smile. She turned serious. I was so focused on the perfect wedding that I nearly forgot about the actual marriage part. Thank you for forcing me to confront who I was becoming, even though it was painful. You probably saved not just our relationship, but my relationship with Harrison, too. Mom made her own quiet reconciliation. She arrived with a small blue box. Something borrowed, she said, opening it to reveal Dad's cufflinks. The ones he wore at his own wedding. I've kept these all these years. He would want you to wear them today, as you stand up for your sister. The ceremony was intimate, genuine. No pretense. When I delivered the Frost poem, I caught Uncle Frank wiping away tears, and even Theodore Whitfield nodding, thoughtfully, at the verse about choosing the road less traveled. At the reception, my speech acknowledged our complicated past, but embraced a hopeful future. Siblings, I said, raising my glass to Eliza and Harrison. have a unique bond. We share history that shapes us, arguments that strengthen us, and a love that sustains us even through difficult times. Eliza, we've traveled a complicated road to reach this celebration, but I wouldn't trade our journey for anything. It's taught us both what truly matters. The healing continued long after the wedding. Our first Thanksgiving with these new boundaries was a little awkward. Richard still slipped in a condescending comment now and then. Mom occasionally reverted to old patterns of favoritism. But now, those moments were addressed directly, not silently endured, and that created space for genuine interaction. Both individual and family therapy sessions became part of our ongoing recovery. In one powerful session, Mom finally confessed how her own insecurities had driven her. I was always the poor scholarship girl among wealthy classmates, she admitted. When Richard offered entry into that world, I grabbed it with both hands, terrified of ever going back to feeling less than. I pushed that same fear onto my children without realizing it. Trust, real trust, rebuilt slowly. Through actions. Eliza started calling just to check in, showing genuine interest in my projects, my life. Mom began attending my company's public events, proudly introducing me without apologies or qualifiers. Even Richard, in his limited capacity for change, occasionally asked substantive questions about my work. And then, the most unexpected positive change. With all the energy I'd spent on family drama, now free, I found myself open to new relationships. Through Harrison's cousin, Emma, I met Sophia, a brilliant architectural engineer whose straightforward manner and authentic approach to life immediately captivated me. Our first date stretched from coffee to dinner to midnight. Conversations about everything. 6 months after the wedding, at Uncle Frank's birthday dinner, I brought Sophia to meet everyone. Watching her effortlessly navigate conversations with my now significantly humbled family, it crystallized for me just how much things had changed. I never would have met Sophia if I hadn't stood up for myself, I told Uncle Frank, as we watched her animatedly discussing sustainable building materials with Eliza. Funny how setting boundaries actually created space for better connections. Frank just smiled. Not funny, Basil. That's exactly how it's supposed to work. Healthy relationships need honest foundations. You finally stopped building on quicksand. This journey, sparked by a cruel text message, forced a reckoning that none of us could have found otherwise. The financial leverage wasn't about punishment. It was about finally demanding the respect I'd earned through years of loyalty and unwavering support. The profound lesson I carry forward? True family isn't defined by obligation or financial dependency. It's built on mutual respect, authentic interest, and support that flows in all directions. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for those who've taken you for granted, is to stand firmly in your worth and refuse to accept anything less than the respect you deserve.